Nostradamus predicted only 3 zodiac signs will receive 100 million in 2026 horoscope for the year. The unstoppable movement of the future is already shaping events that will transform the financial opportunities of millions, and this is where the main thing begins. Nostradamus left a clue about the 3 chosen signs of the zodiac that in 2026 will approach a life-changing sum: 100 million. This is not a symbolic image or a metaphor, but a specific prophetic benchmark that distinguishes these representatives from others. This year will be a field of powerful transformations, where energy flows will sharply build new financial trajectories. 3 signs will surge ahead, as if supported by a force that has long been waiting for its moment to manifest. Their path in 2026 will be marked by shifts that will take them to another level. The scale of income, the environment of opportunities, and chains of events capable of creating enormous capital from literally a single decision. Next, you will hear an analytically accurate, esoterically deep analysis of who exactly will get the chance for an incredible breakthrough, and why these 3 signs are capable of realizing the financial potential predicted by Nostradamus. Stay tuned until the end, because every detail could be your key to understanding 2026. Write your zodiac sign in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss new predictions. It will get even better. Aries. According to a prophecy attributed to Nostradamus, Aries will be one of 3 signs for which 100 million in 2026 will not be a fantasy, but a realistic financial goal. This is not just about winning the lottery, but about total capital: cash, investments, business shares, real estate, royalties, and profitable projects. Aries will enter the year not as a random lucky person, but as someone who will gradually build a large-scale income system, where one event will reinforce another, creating a financial acceleration effect. At the beginning of the year, Aries will analyze their start, current income, debts, expenses, and unsuccessful attempts in previous years. They will have a clear sense that the old earn and spend schemes will no longer work. They will move from chaotic side jobs, scattered projects, and spontaneous ideas to a structured financial plan. Aries will set specific goals for themselves. How much money should be in their account in 3, 6, 12 months? What income each area of activity will bring? What amounts will be invested rather than spent? Aries' financial breakthrough will be linked to their ability to take responsibility for big decisions. They will not limit themselves to small tasks, but will begin to think in terms of projects, companies, shares, and market scale. Where others will stop out of fear, representatives of this sign will pick up speed, agreeing to complex deals, opening new areas of business, entering niches that seemed unattainable to them. Aries will actively use their natural drive in negotiations, their ability to react quickly, and their propensity for risk, but calculated risk, not reckless risk. The main sources of money for Aries in this context will be specific: scaling up existing activities, e.g., business, personal brand, online projects, launching a new product or service, entering other countries or new customer segments, investing in real estate, stocks, and digital assets. They will move from one-off deals to recurring ones, from one-time customers to long-term contracts, from small amounts to 6- and 7-figure turnovers in currency. Each stage will be backed up by figures: sales plan, margin, minimum acceptable profit, expected return on investment. One of the key events of the year for Aries will be the moment when they stop being afraid to count big money. Until now, they may have been shy about talking about millions, considering it not for them, or thinking that such sums are only possible for the chosen few. In 2026, this perception will change. Representatives of this sign will begin to view $100 million as a financial threshold, consisting of several large blocks. For example, a share in a business valued at tens of millions, a real estate portfolio with properties that generate stable passive income, dividends and royalties from products, content, licenses, copyrights, liquid financial instruments. An important factor will be Aries' willingness to work with systems rather than chaos. They will implement income and expense accounting, financial tables, cash flow planning, accounts receivable control, and tax burden optimization. Instead of impulsive purchases, clear financial priorities will emerge: investments in business development, education, tools that speed up work, process automation, and team hiring. Aries will gradually form a circle of professionals around them: accountants, lawyers, consultants, and partners who strengthen them rather than hold them back. In their career, representatives of this sign can expect a serious rethinking of their role. They will either rise to top positions in the company with the corresponding level of bonuses, options, and premiums, or leave their job to start their own business, where the scale of income will not be limited by a fixed salary. It is possible that Aries will combine both formats, retaining a key position as an anchor of stability while simultaneously developing their own commercial ventures, which after a while will begin to bring in significantly more than their main job. In the field of investment, Aries will move from random investments to a systematic portfolio. They will stop keeping money under the mattress or in one or two accounts. Instead, there will be several clear baskets: the stock market, real estate, business projects, and a reserve fund. They will study real profitability figures, risks, historical fluctuations, and legal nuances. His strategy will not be based on blind faith in magic tools. Each decision will be backed up by analysis and consultation. One of the defining events of the year for Aries will be a deal or series of deals that will dramatically increase his financial weight. This could be a large-scale contract, the sale of a stake in a business, a profitable exit from a project that has increased in value several times over, the purchase of real estate at a reduced price with a subsequent jump in market value, or the attraction of an investor who will evaluate Aries' activities in amounts that they had not even thought of before. The key is that this event will not be accidental. It will be the result of previous decisions, attempts, negotiations, sometimes harsh refusals, and strategy revisions. Along with the material side, financial discipline will grow. Aries will refuse unnecessary loans, impulsive spending, questionable loans to acquaintances, or participation in dubious schemes. He will clearly understand the difference between income-generating assets and liabilities that only suck money out. When buying a car, equipment, or expensive items, they will ask themselves, how will this affect my cash flow? Will it bring me closer to 100 million or further away? This approach will allow them to avoid typical mistakes that destroy capital in the early stages. In his relationships with those around him, Aries will reevaluate his social circle. He will stop wasting time on people who constantly complain, demotivate, devalue big goals, and convince him that big money is unfair or not for ordinary people. Instead, entrepreneurs, investors, high-level specialists, and people who think in terms of projects, markets, and profitability will appear in his circle. In such conversations, sums in the millions cease to be something fantastic and turn into working figures that can be planned and achieved. The issue of risk will be particularly relevant for Aries. They will not avoid risk entirely, because it is precisely their willingness to go where others fear to tread that will open up access to great opportunities. But their risks will be wisely limited, not everything at once. not all resources in one instrument, not an all-or-nothing bet. They will distribute investments, check partners, read contracts to the end, and consult before signing important documents. This approach will allow them to increase the scale without destroying what has already been built. A separate area for Aries will be the monetization of knowledge, experience, and personal brand. They will understand that in today's world, people can earn not only with their hands or time, but also with their expertise, consulting, original products, educational programs, online projects, and licenses for their own developments. This can become one of the most powerful sources of income, especially if Aries works in a high value-added field. Technology, finance, marketing, medicine, creative industries, consulting. The most interesting thing about this forecast is that Aries' path to 100 million will not look like a one-time gift of fate. It will resemble a staircase where each step is a specific decision, an accepted proposal, a signed contract, a created product, an opened company, a purchased object, a closed debt, a launched new direction. At a certain stage, the amount on paper or in the valuation of assets may jump sharply, but it will be based on years of experience and one particularly productive year when Aries stops playing small. At the end of the year, representatives of this sign will look at their lives through the prism of scale. Their living space, the quality of their travels, the level of medical care, opportunities for family, education, and charity will change. Instead of struggling to survive, they will manage large capital, where the main issues will be preservation, multiplication, protection from inflation, inheritance planning, and the distribution of responsibility between partners and family members. For Aries, 100 million in this context will not be the end point, but a new level of the game, where the main resource will be not only the capital itself, but also the understanding of how to work with it so that it serves long and steadily. Such an Aries will be associated with the trio of signs mentioned in the prophecy, not by chance, but through specific actions, bold decisions, and the ability to accept a scale of life that previously seemed too distant. Taurus, for Taurus. In the prophecy associated with the name of Nostradamus, 100 million in 2026 will mean not just a large sum, but a transition to a completely different financial class. Representatives of this sign will not chase after random jackpots, but will form such a powerful cash flow that the total value of their assets will reach 9 figures. This involves a combination of real business, stable investments, profitable real estate, dividends, and competent money management throughout the year, with each month playing a clear role in the strategic plan. In January, Taurus will put their finances in order. They will systematize their debts, review their loans, and write down their regular expenses and sources of income. Representatives of this sign will create tables, budgets, and control points for themselves, where every hryvnia or euro will have a purpose. They will not allow money to simply run away through unstructured purchases and random expenses. During this period, Taurus will draw up an annual financial plan, which will include estimated income amounts for February, March, June, September, November, and December. The entire structure will be designed so that the amount at the end of the year no longer looks like a dream, but like the logical result of consistent steps. In February, they will be actively engaged in the income side. Taurus will analyze which areas of activity will bring the maximum growth: main job, own business, freelance work, online projects, affiliate programs, consulting, manufacturing, services. They will focus on what can be scaled, not one-off deals, but repeat contracts, not small orders, but large clients, not low-margin services, but those that generate high profits. For each source, he will outline the growth potential and decide what to expand and what to close so as not to waste energy. March will be a month of investment decisions. Taurus will not let money sit idle. They will begin to study where it is profitable to invest. Real estate, the stock market, fixed income instruments, business shares, digital assets with a real foundation, franchises. For them, it will not be promises of quick riches that are important, but transparent rules, understandable risks, and real indicators. Taurus will be ready to invest significant amounts in areas where they see long-term potential, and at the same time, they will be sure to create a reserve fund for several months of living and working so that any instability does not disrupt their overall plan. In April, representatives of this sign will begin working on increasing their value in the market. They will plan new skills, courses, certifications, the launch of their own products, the expansion of their range of services, and the creation of a personal brand. Taurus will understand that big money comes to those who provide significant benefits to the market, solving expensive problems, working with serious clients, and creating products that deliver results. They will lay the groundwork to raise prices in the second half of the year, reach a more affluent audience, and work on a larger scale. May will be a time for strategy adjustments. Taurus will evaluate what has already worked and what needs to be changed. If a particular area of activity proves to be weak, they will reduce the time and resources spent on it. Instead, they will focus on the most profitable streams. They will be ready to give up small and nervous clients in favor of large and stable ones. During this period, the first large contracts or deals may appear, which will sharply increase monthly income. Taurus will carefully spell out all the terms and conditions and agree on the legal details to protect themselves and lay the foundation for long-term cooperation. In June, the topic of scaling will come to the fore. If a representative of this sign has a business, they will hire people, delegate, automate processes, implement CRM systems, online services, and new technologies. If Taurus is employed, they will initiate negotiations for a raise, bonuses, a percentage of profits, profit sharing, options, or a transfer to a position with different responsibilities and salary. They will not agree to remain at a level where the job takes up a lot of time, but the financial results do not match their potential. Every step will be aimed at making their work time worth many times more. July will bring bolder decisions. Taurus will be ready to invest larger amounts in areas that have proven their effectiveness in the first half of the year. This could be the purchase of commercial real estate, a second residential property for rent, recapitalization of their own company, or participation in a promising project as a partner or investor. During this period, agreements may be signed where the figures will already be measured in tens of millions in the future. Taurus will understand that each such step brings them closer to the final amount mentioned in the prophecy. August will be a month of control and financial discipline. Representatives of this sign will carefully check all reports, statements, contracts, and income and expense summaries. They will optimize tax models, look for legal ways to reduce the fiscal burden, and consult with accountants and lawyers. At this point, Taurus will realize that big money loves order no less than energy. Without clear documentation, transparent contracts, and a systematic approach to accounting, no millions will be safe. They will make sure that their financial system works like a business, with regulations, rules, responsible persons, and control points. In September, Taurus will actively expand their circle of contacts. They will reach out to new partners, investors, clients, and experts in related fields. It will be important for them to be where big deals, markets, and investment opportunities are discussed, rather than minor issues. They will attend events, conferences, and closed meetings where they can establish connections that will bring in tens of millions in the future. During this period, a strategic partner may appear, a person or company that will open up access to resources, audiences, or technologies that Taurus would not be able to obtain so quickly on their own. October will be the month when financial results begin to accelerate sharply. Income from several main areas of activity will overlap. Business will generate profits. Investments will yield returns. Real estate will bring in rental payments. And copyrights or digital products will provide a passive income stream. Taurus will see that the amount that previously seemed unattainable no longer seems fantastic. If at the beginning of the year he was thinking in terms of tens of thousands, now he will be calculating in millions. This psychological shift will be one of the key factors in his further growth. In November, the focus will shift toward protecting what has been created. Taurus will formalize legal rights, structure property, register trademarks, check contracts for risks, and consider options for property, health, and liability insurance. They will discuss with lawyers the issues of inheritance, distribution of shares in the business, and conditions for withdrawal from projects. It will become clear to them that without this component, any capital can be vulnerable. Taurus will strive to ensure that 100 million is not a one-time figure, but a stable platform that cannot be easily destroyed or taken away. December will end the financial arc of the year with a result that is as close as possible to the figure mentioned in the prophecy. By this point, the representative of the sign will have several powerful assets: a business or a share in a business with high profitability, real estate in attractive locations, an investment portfolio that provides a tangible income, and cash reserves in accounts. The combined value of all these elements may reach or exceed $100 million. Taurus will realize that they have reached this level not because they were lucky, but because they have worked systematically every month on their income, expenses, investments, risks, relationships with partners, and their own efficiency. An important component of this path will be internal transformation. Taurus will stop perceiving money as an end in itself. They will treat capital as a tool, an opportunity to protect their family, provide a quality education, create a financial cushion, help those who really need support, and develop meaningful projects. They will clearly understand which expenses strengthen their position and which simply demonstrate status without any real benefit. This approach will allow them not to squander their resources in the first few years after achieving a large sum. Taurus's environment will also undergo changes. People who drag them into petty conflicts, pointless arguments, gossip, and envy will disappear. Instead, partners who are accustomed to thinking in terms of projects, turnover, profits, and investments will appear. Conversations about salaries will be replaced by discussions of shares, capitalization, multipliers, and dividend policy. This level of communication will form a new norm for Taurus, in which 100 million will not seem like something exceptional, but will become part of the working context. A separate area of development will be the monetization of time and attention. Taurus will weed out tasks that do not bring tangible results. They will refuse to participate in endless meetings without a specific goal, empty discussions, and cooperation with those who do not fulfill their obligations. Every hour of their day will be filled with activities that lead to strengthening their position: negotiations, analysis, strategic planning, teamwork, monitoring financial indicators, and developing new areas. This approach will allow Taurus to create added value that will bring in money even when he is not physically working. Gradually, representatives of this sign will form their own financial philosophy. It will include the principles of security, growth, reserves, diversification, responsibility, and long-term thinking. Taurus will realize that true wealth is not only a number in the assets column, but also the ability to not depend on other people's decisions, not to fear economic fluctuations, and to create projects that will survive individual crises. Thanks to this philosophy, they will be able to maintain and multiply their capital, rather than lose it under the influence of emotions or random events. In this format, Taurus's participation in the prophecy of 3 signs that will reach the 100 million level in 2026 will be associated not with blind luck, but with a clear system of actions. Each month of the year will have its own role, each decision will have its own financial consequences, and each step will have its own logic leading to growth. And it is thanks to this structure that the representative of the Taurus sign will be one of those who will turn the forecast into a concrete, measurable result. Gemini. In the prophecies attributed to Nostradamus, the figure of the changeable air sign will take on an unexpected financial scale, and it is the representative of the Gemini sign who will be among the top 3 who will be able to bring their own capital to the level of 100 million in 2026. For them, this will mean not only an impressive amount in their accounts, but above all, a total change in their financial role. From a person who earned money through their own flexibility and understanding, they will become a coordinator of large cash flows, the owner of a network of assets, intellectual products, businesses, and structures that will work for them even when they are resting. At the beginning of the year, in January, Gemini will think about money a lot. They will restructure their way of thinking. Instead of focusing on individual side jobs or quick earnings, they will view their lives as a large-scale project in which every idea, every contact, and every information resource can become a source of income. Representatives of this sign will not just make a list of goals for themselves, but a map of opportunities. How they will increase their income, where new streams will appear, and which directions are worth combining. During this period, they will test all their strengths: communication, quick thinking, adaptability, and decide how to monetize each of them. In February, Gemini will start acting as if their time is worth many times more than before. They will cut off unnecessary contacts, refuse low-paying tasks, and terminate cooperation with those who do not appreciate their competence. Instead of dozens of small areas with little return, they will focus on a few powerful ones. This could be intellectual business, consulting, creating original programs, developing media projects, participating in startups, managing teams, online platforms, hybrid work models that combine experience from several areas at once. Gemini will increasingly talk about percentages, shares, and partnerships rather than fixed fees. March will be the month when their ability to work with information will finally turn into an asset that will bring in big money. Gemini will create systems, original methodologies, courses, programs, service packages, and content structures that can be scaled. They will think about how one product will generate income not once, but hundreds of times, how one idea will be sold in different formats: personal consultations, group formats, online recordings, licensed use, corporate packages. It is during this period that the first sums will begin to appear, which will significantly exceed their previous earnings for the same period of time. The transition to the second quarter of the year will change the scale. From April to June, Gemini will act not as an individual specialist, but as a strategist. In April, they will strengthen their presence in the public sphere. They will go online, expand their audience, launch new communication channels, and attract the attention of target groups. They will clearly understand that where there is an audience, there will be money. Advertising, partnership projects, sales of their own products, collaborations with brands. Gemini will use their natural ease of communication to create a group of people around them who will be willing to pay for access to their knowledge, decisions, and vision. In May, they will no longer be limited to personal income. Representatives of this sign will consider the possibility of starting or expanding a business where not only they themselves will work, but also a hired team. They will plan the structure. Who will be responsible for what, which processes can be automated, and which tasks should be delegated. At this stage, they will understand that those who do everything on their own will not reach the 100 million level. Therefore, Gemini will form the core of the team: an assistant, manager, technical specialist, marketer, salespeople, financier, lawyer, depending on the niche. They will lay out how teamwork will multiply their turnover. June will be the time when their flexibility in negotiations will begin to bring the most benefit. Gemini will sign agreements where the main factor will be not only the money they will receive immediately, but also a percentage of future results. They will agree to cooperation models where their remuneration will depend on how much they can increase sales, bring in customers, and optimize processes. This approach will allow them to generate future income that will grow along with the businesses in which they invest their minds and energy. The summer period will reveal another important theme: Gemini's ability to work in several areas at once without compromising quality. In July, they will actively combine several roles at once: entrepreneur, analyst, public figure, consultant, and media personality. They will launch several lines of income that will complement each other. For example, an educational product will lead to consulting. Consulting will lead to partnerships. Partnerships will lead to a share in the business. And a share in the business will lead to dividends and further investments. Each direction will bring in money on its own, and together they will form a stream capable of reaching the amount indicated in the prophecy. August will have a different function, a corrective one. At this time, Gemini will rethink which projects are really moving them towards 100 million and which are just draining their energy. They will honestly admit that not every idea is worth further investment. They will shut some things down, sell some things, and pass some things on to others. As a result, only those areas will remain where either the revenue or the growth potential is so high that it makes sense to continue working on them. At this stage, Gemini will begin to feel like they are not just earners, but managers of a portfolio of projects. Autumn, which begins in September, will be a period of a sharp shift in focus to investments. Gemini will already have significant sums that cannot be left simply in their accounts. They will look for ways to preserve and multiply what they have earned. Real estate in different countries, equity participation in companies, investment funds, instruments with regular returns, and securities packages suitable for long-term holding. They will consult with experts, compare conditions, look at historical returns, and balance risks. At this point, the very structural elements that will form the basis for a 9-figure valuation of their assets will begin to take shape. In October, Gemini will intensify their work on their name as a brand. They will be zealous about their reputation. They will keep their promises, meet deadlines, not take on anything they cannot do well, and be able to say no if a project disrupts their schedule or does not fit their financial plan. During this period, they will increasingly receive offers of cooperation that will open up access to large audiences and high-value clients. That is when their name will act as a filter. They will not be approached by everyone, but only by those who are willing to pay for quality and not haggle over pennies. November will be associated with a rethinking of personal financial habits. Gemini will change their attitude toward spending. Impulsive purchases, chaotic whims, and small pleasures for the sake of instant emotions will give way to a systematic approach. They will still allow themselves comfort, travel, and quality rest. but they will do so in a way that these expenses do not destroy their cash flow. They will direct part of what would previously have gone to one-time experiences to assets that will return their expenses with a profit. For example, instead of a simple trip, they will organize business meetings in another country, combining leisure with new contacts and prospects. The final part of the year, December, will reflect the results of all the decisions made. By this time, Gemini will have several strong financial pillars, businesses that they will manage or in which they will own a stake, investment instruments that will provide regular income, intellectual property in the form of copyrighted programs, courses, and methodologies, a personal brand that will generate requests from clients and partners, an extensive network of contacts that can be used to launch new projects without starting from scratch. The total value of all these elements, when converted, will most likely approach the amount indicated in the prophecy, or reach a level that will allow them to confidently move forward toward nine-figure capital. At the same time, it is important to note that the path of Gemini in 2026 will not be a straight line. There will be moments of rapid growth and pauses, unsuccessful decisions and strong breakthroughs, reworking and abandoning old models. But it is their ability to quickly adapt, change tactics, and find a way out of situations that seem like dead ends to others that will be the factor that allows them to move forward when others stop. Gemini will not be afraid to change direction, reformat their business, test new monetization models, relocate if it is profitable, and bring their services or products to other markets. Another important aspect is dealing with information noise. In 2026, this sign will constantly receive offers, from dubious get-rich-quick schemes to adequate investment opportunities. The difference between those who will remain at the level of ordinary income and those who will reach $100 million will be in their ability to filter. Gemini will learn to check sources, compare conditions, and separate marketing promises from real numbers. They will not invest large sums where there is nothing but pretty words. Instead, they will give preference to areas where there are clear contracts, a transparent structure, and an understandable mechanism for making a profit. Gemini's financial literacy will grow significantly this year. They will gain a deeper understanding of the concepts of liquidity, diversification, risk-adjusted returns, the importance of reserve funds, capital protection mechanisms, and legal tax optimization opportunities. As a result, their decisions will become less emotional and more thoughtful. Any major purchase, any unilateral agreement, any borrowing of funds will pass through an internal filter. Will it bring them closer to real financial freedom, or will it become another burden? Gemini will also change in their relationships with loved ones. They will strive not only to provide for their families, but also to create a stable system for them, accounts, policies, and property that will not depend on market moods or individual employers. They will think about which mechanisms for transferring assets will work best, how to protect their family from unforeseen circumstances, how to give their children or future generations not only resources, but also financial literacy. This will change their approach to money, from short-term gains to a long-term perspective. Thus, Gemini's participation in the prophecy of 3 signs that could reach 100 million in 2026 will not be based on chance. It will consist of the ability to work quickly with information, transform knowledge and contacts into monetized systems, create scalable products, move from personal employment to managing teams and assets, invest wisely, and protect what has already been built. Month after month, Gemini will build not just income, but a financial infrastructure capable of withstanding 9-figure sums. And this is what will make them one of the key players in the financial story that will be talked about when Nostradamus's prophecies are mentioned. Cancer. In the financial prophecy for 2026, Cancer will be in a position that is as close as possible to big capital, without necessarily being among the top 3 to whom Nostradamus will attribute 100 million. For them, this year will be a year of powerful groundwork, accumulation of financial strength, redistribution of resources, and formation of a stable cash flow system, which over time will allow them to reach the threshold of super large sums. A representative of this sign will not chase a random jackpot. He will build capital that will be based not on luck, but on calculation, discipline, and accurate decisions. Cancer's financial path in 2026 will have 4 major phases, each of which will be associated with specific months and clear tasks. January-March. Financial inventory and resource redistribution from January to March. Cancer will be engaged in a total review of their financial life. In January, they will systematize everything related to money: salaries, side jobs, debts, loans, regular expenses, utility bills, subscriptions, and small daily expenses. They will create tables, checklists, and files where everything will be calculated. How much comes in, how much goes out, where there are holes, where funds disappear without any tangible results. In February, representatives of this sign will begin to reduce their financial ballast. They will cancel unnecessary subscriptions, optimize tariffs, and refuse expenses that do not enhance their life and business. Impulsive purchases, unnecessary loans, spontaneous gifts that have no return. Cancer will take a principled approach to each expense. Either it adds stability, health, or professional development, or it is removed from the list. This way, they will free up real amounts that will begin to accumulate. March will be the month when Cancer launches a basic financial structure for themselves. Separate accounts will appear for reserves, for investments, for operating expenses, and for personal needs. Part of the income will automatically go to a safety cushion, part to future investments, and part to current expenses. Cancer will no longer keep money in a single pile where everything is mixed together. They will build a system in which every hryvnia or euro will have a clear status and role. It will not look impressive from the outside, but this is where the foundation for large sums in the future will be laid. April-June. Increasing income and the first big decisions. From April to June, the focus will be on earnings. In April, Cancer will determine which sources of income are capable of generating multiple growth. If they are employed, this will mean an increase in status, a move to a higher position, an expansion of their area of responsibility, with a corresponding review of their remuneration, receiving bonuses, or a percentage of the result, rather than just a fixed rate. If Cancer has a business or private practice, they will begin to analyze what can be scaled up, which services or products should be moved to the premium segment, which clients to continue working with, and with whom to terminate cooperation. In May, Cancer will introduce strict standards for their work. These will apply not only to the quality of work, but also to financial conditions. They will clearly specify the cost of their labor, terms, payment procedures, and penalties for delays. The days of "do it and then we'll talk" will be over. Each project will have a specific price, advance payment, and final settlement form. This will sharply reduce the number of random and problematic clients, but will increase the share of those who are willing to pay adequately. June will be the point at which Cancer will take the first serious steps to increase the scale of its income. It will consider options for additional income that will not eat up all of its time. Participation in affiliate programs, sales commissions, percentage of turnover, introduction of automated online products, paid consultations, and educational programs. It is important to note that this will not be chaotic freelancing, but a structure where each action is tied to a systematic result. Cancer will form their first semi-passive income streams, which will work in parallel with their main activity. July-September period. Investment start and asset formation. Between July and September, Cancer will move from the idea of earning to the idea of turning earnings into assets. July will be the month when they begin to systematically study instruments where money can work independently. They will be interested in specific areas: real estate, residential, commercial, short-term and long-term rentals, fixed income financial instruments, the stock market, and participation in business as a partner or investor. Cancer will not rush into the first opportunity that comes along. He will compare, read, and consult. The first real steps will appear in August. Cancer may make a down payment on real estate, acquire a stake in a small but promising business, open an investment account, or form a starter portfolio of several financial instruments. Importantly, these decisions will not be spontaneous. Each step will be backed up by numbers: expected returns, risk, payback periods, tax implications. Cancer will ask the question, what will this give me in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? This long-term financial thinking will sharply distinguish them from those who think only about their next paycheck. September will cement Cancer's new role as an asset owner. They will no longer have only income from work, but also money that will come in regardless of how many hours they have worked. For example, rent, interest, dividends, and a share of profits as a partner. For the first time in a long time, Cancer will begin to see that even without increasing their personal workload, the amount that comes in every month will become larger. This will change their internal scale. Instead of thinking how to live until the end of the month, they will understand how to increase capital in a year and in several years. Period. October. December. Capital protection, preparation for big numbers. The final stretch of the year, from October to December, will be devoted not so much to growth as to strengthening what has already been created. In October, Cancer will begin to legally formalize and organize property. Lease agreements, partnership agreements, registration of rights, tax models. All of this will come to the fore. They will bring documents into line with actual financial flows, put contracts in order, and change conditions that were once accepted in words, but are now understood to be vulnerable. November will be a month when Cancer will pay special attention to financial security. This will involve property insurance, health insurance, professional liability insurance, reserve funds for force majeure events, and asset diversification. They will stop keeping everything in one currency, in one account, in one country, or in one instrument. The logic will be that if something goes wrong in one segment, the others will compensate for the risks. This approach will protect them from the blows that often destroy those who have just begun to rise. In December, Cancer will have the opportunity to clearly calculate what 2026 has given them. They will have a clear figure for their total capital, money in accounts, the value of real estate, the valuation of business shares, and the value of instruments in their investment portfolio. Even if the amount falls short of the symbolic 100 million, it will be many times greater than what they started with. At the same time, the most important result will not be just a number, but a system, an infrastructure of income, assets, contracts, and partnerships that can already be scaled up to larger values. This is what will distinguish Cancer from other signs that will remain at the level of random earnings. Working with income, clear levels and breakthrough zones. Throughout 2026, Cancer will work not just on increasing the amounts, but on the quality of income. Its financial flow will consist of several levels. 1. Basic income, salary, fees, or regular income from core activities. 2. Enhanced income. Bonuses, commissions, percentage of results, additional projects that will be carried out in the form of clear contracts. 3. Strategic income. Passive or semi-passive income from assets and participation in businesses. Cancer will set specific goals at each level. He will not use general phrases such as earn more. He will write down numbers, how much the base level should bring in March, June, September, and December. What amount of enhanced income will be optimal in the second quarter? What amounts the strategic level should bring in at the end of the year? This approach will allow them to monitor dynamics and adjust actions in real time. It is especially important that Cancer will not perceive themselves as an eternal executor. They will purposefully move towards the role of someone who manages processes and cash flows. This will be reflected in decisions, hiring an assistant, partial delegation, using automation services, and abandoning minor tasks in favor of strategic ones. Time will become as valuable a resource for him as money. If a particular activity does not bring sufficient return for the hours spent, it will either be optimized or discarded. Cancer's financial psychology. In 2026, a separate dimension this year is Cancer's internal attitude toward large sums of money. At first, they will be cautious about the numbers mentioned in the predictions. 100 million will seem too far away. But month after month, looking at their progress, representatives of this sign will change their attitude. If at the start they think in terms of thousands, then closer to the end of the year, they will begin to operate with millions as working figures. The question, is this realistic, will change to, in what time frame is this possible? Cancer will get rid of internal limitations such as, I will never have big money. This is only for the chosen ones. I will not be able to manage large sums. These will gradually be replaced by other attitudes. I am capable of learning to manage capital. I can make decisions that yield multiple financial results. I have the right to scale. This is not about dreaminess, but about a change in the level of responsibility. In 2026, large capital will no longer seem like an unattainable mirage for Cancer. It will become a goal that can be achieved step by step through structured actions. Relationships, environment, and finances. In the financial year, the people around Cancer will be of great importance. They will have a very clear sense of who is strengthening their movement and who is blocking it. In the first half of the year, there will still be acquaintances who constantly complain about fate, money problems, and the injustice of the system. This type of communication will sap motivation. Cancer will gradually limit the amount of time they spend on these conversations and instead seek out contacts who speak the language of projects, solutions, and opportunities. In the second half of 2026, new people will appear in Cancer's field of vision. Entrepreneurs, financiers, investors, and specialists in narrow fields. These will not necessarily be public figures, but practitioners who actually work with numbers. It is from them that he will begin to receive not kitchen advice, but working tools. Which tax regimes are beneficial in his situation, how best to structure a lease agreement, on what terms to enter into a partnership, how to negotiate with large clients. Such contacts will become one of his most valuable assets. Relationships in the family will also have a financial component. Cancer will cease to perceive money as a topic that must be hidden. On the contrary, they will build an honest dialogue. What are the goals? What level of income is needed to achieve them? What is everyone willing to do to strengthen the overall budget? Which expenses are a priority? And which ones only have an emotional effect without any benefit? This will help avoid conflicts over money and create a sense that everyone is on the same team, rather than in different camps. The role of Cancer in the context of the prophecy about 100 million. When people recall the words attributed to Nostradamus, that only 3 zodiac signs will reach the 100 million mark in 2026, the name Cancer will be mentioned in a different context. It will not necessarily be the one who already has this amount, but definitely the one who will create a platform capable of bringing it to such a scale in the near future. Its year will be more about the foundation than the apogee, more about the construction than the spectacular finish. That is why the forecast for Cancer will look so powerful. It does not promise an easy prize, but shows a path where discipline, clear actions, smart investments, capital protection, and working with your environment will give you much more than a one-time win. If other signs will get their role in the prophecy this year through a sharp jump, Cancer will build a structure that will allow them not only to touch large sums, but also to learn how to work with them, save and multiply them. And this is what will make their financial future truly strong. Leo. For Leo in 2026, money will not just be a resource, but a confirmation of his scale and weight. Representatives of this sign will enter the year with the feeling that they are cramped in their old framework, and they will behave like people who are moving into a different financial league. In the prophecies associated with the name of Nostradamus, Leo will appear as someone who will not be satisfied with intermediate results. He will hunt for large sums, large projects, and large markets. His task will be not just to earn more, but to build a position in which money will emphasize his role, influence, and ability to manage complex systems. January will be a starting point for Leo, where he will rigorously assess his financial level. He will look at his income, expenses, lifestyle, and savings, and ask himself direct questions. How much does his job, business, or activity really bring in? How much money is simply eaten up by impulsive purchases? What he does every day will really bring him closer to millions. This month, Leo will make unpleasant but useful decisions. To give up ineffective sources of income that take up a lot of time and nerves. To close projects that have not reached their promised turnover for years. To stop working with people who constantly drag them down with financial obligations without any real return. They will build a short but powerful list of areas with great growth potential. In February, Leo will start acting as if he is already working in a different financial class. If he is in business, he will initiate a change in pricing policy, increasing checks, moving to the premium segment, selecting customers who are able to pay for the level and not haggle over every penny. If they work for a company, they will come up with initiatives that will directly affect profits, process optimization, new products, entry into other markets, redistribution of responsibilities. Leo will not wait for a promotion. He will create a situation for his management in which it will be impossible not to raise his status, because his ideas will bring real money. Leo's February decisions will lay the foundation for his name to be associated with results throughout the year, not just charisma. March will be the month when Leo begins to go beyond a single source of income. He will look broader: partnership programs, percentage of turnover, participation in other people's businesses as a strategic partner, launching his own media projects, creating products that can be sold many times, books, educational programs, online courses, services. Leo will understand that their strength lies not only in action, but also in influence. They will monetize their ability to lead people, shape opinions, and set standards. During this period, the first agreements may appear where their remuneration will be linked not to hours, but to a share of profits, sales, or company growth. April in Leo's life will be associated with scale and publicity. He will come out of the shadows if he has been working quietly before. If he's already used to being in the spotlight, he will raise the stakes. New audiences, other markets, other countries. Leo will shape the image of a person who knows what he is doing and knows how to turn ideas into concrete figures. They will update their visual presentation, communication style, and the structure of their public speeches to strengthen the trust of their solvent audience. At this time, they may negotiate expensive speeches, closed consultations, and participation in projects as a face that adds value to the brand. April will be the first month when Leo will really feel that the conversation will be about millions, not thousands, and it will sound natural. In May, Leo will strictly structure their working reality. They will stop spreading themselves too thin. Instead of dozens of tasks hanging in the air, clear priorities will emerge. 3 or 4 key areas that give maximum return. They will form a team or strengthen the one that already exists. Leo will ensure that tasks that do not require their personal presence are performed by others. Assistants, managers, technical specialists, marketers, salespeople. All these roles will begin to be filled by people capable of keeping up the pace. Leo will move from the I do everything myself model to the I manage, make decisions, control key points, and move the system forward model. June will be the month of the first serious financial results in the new format. Leo's turnover will include amounts that would previously have required years of work, but will now come from one large contract, a signed agreement, or a completed project stage. Leo will see amounts in his account that clearly show that the change in strategy was the right one. During this period, they will begin to think not only about earnings, but also about converting income into capital. Instead of immediately transferring money to expenses, they will allocate a portion for investment. This will not be about leftovers, but about a systematic share. For example, 20–30% of large revenues that will be directed to instruments capable of operating autonomously. July will be associated with the expansion of Leo's financial geography. He will look beyond his city or country. The focus will be on foreign markets, customers from other countries, and products and services that can be sold in different jurisdictions. Leo will understand that big money is rarely concentrated in one place. He will study where it is more profitable to register companies, which countries offer acceptable tax conditions, how to work with foreign platforms, and how to accept payments in different currencies. He will become interested in the issue of conversion, how to maintain purchasing power when one currency depreciates and another strengthens. July will be the month when Leo stops thinking in terms of local earnings and enters into the logic of global flows. August will reinforce the theme of investment. Leo will look closely at real estate, residential properties in promising areas, apartments for rent, possibly commercial space that will bring a stable income. He will consider participating in construction, purchasing properties in the early stages, and reselling them at a profit. At the same time, their attention will be drawn to stocks, bonds, shares in private companies, and venture capital stories. He will not invest everything at once or gamble, but will be ready to distribute part of his capital among several instruments so as not to depend on just one channel. August will be the month when Leo begins to behave like a person who creates capital, rather than just earning and spending it. September will bring a moment when Leo will feel that the scale of his financial decisions has really changed. He will coordinate several large processes at once: the work of the company or projects, negotiations with partners, investment management, legal registration of property, and planning new launches. Money will not only move in one direction, inflows will grow, and outflows will be structured between business, investments, personal life, and reserves. Leo will see that a mistake in his decision can already be very costly, and the right move can bring not just extra thousands, but extra millions. This will strengthen their sense of responsibility and confidence. October will be a month when Leos will be busy protecting and strengthening their status. They will organize their property structure so that it is transparent, understandable, and secure. Partnership agreements, company statutes, terms of withdrawal from joint projects, registration of rights to trademarks or copyrighted products. All of this will be the subject of careful attention. Leo will realize that when it comes to large sums of money, it is important not only to earn, but also to protect oneself from unpredictable legal risks, claims, and conflicts between co-owners. October's decisions will work not just for 1 year, but for the long term, and this is what Leo will appreciate. November will be marked by strict financial discipline. Leo will cut back even on expenses that previously seemed sacrosanct if they do not have a real return. This is not about giving up comfort, but about replacing chaotic luxury with a well-thought-out standard of living. Leo will choose not just expensive things, but high-quality tools that emphasize his status and enhance efficiency, technology, transportation, office space, an environment where he feels comfortable thinking and making decisions. They will pay close attention to their debt burden. Loans without a strategy will be repaid or refinanced on more favorable terms. Leos will gradually reduce their dependence on banks and increase their dependence on their own capital. December will be the month when Leo will draw up dry, numerical conclusions for himself, rather than emotional ones. He will look at what the reports have to show: total income for the year, net profit, total investment, current asset value. He will see how the structure has changed, what part of the income comes from his time and personal involvement, and what part comes from the business and tools that work without his physical presence. It is here that he will realize how close he has come to the threshold mentioned in the prophecy. Even if the sum of 100 million is not yet formally recorded on paper, the total value of his businesses, real estate, brand, contracts, and rights may reach a level that will eventually allow him to easily join the club of those who regularly operate with such figures. It is important that throughout 2026, Leo will not perceive money as something separate from personal power. For him, capital will be a marker of maturity, inner strength, and readiness to take responsibility for other people, teams, and partners. He will understand that big money does not like weak decisions, ambiguities, or compromises with his own principles. Therefore, in financial matters, Leo will be direct and precise. Either the conditions are favorable and transparent, or there will be no deal. He will not waste time on petty manipulations, bargaining for meager benefits, or endless negotiations with those who do not appreciate his level. In interacting with other people in 2026, Leo will act as a center of gravity for those who strive for results. Specialists who know how to calculate, analyze, launch, and sell will gather around him. He will not take everything upon himself, but will create an environment in which every element of the system works to strengthen the overall financial flow. This environment will become the invisible foundation that will allow Leo to claim sums with 2 zeros after the 7-digit part. Thus, for Leo, 2026 will be a year in which he will behave like a person playing in the major leagues. He will make decisions that will seem too bold to others, but for him, they will be logical steps toward big capital. Each month will have its own meaning, each stage its own function, each action its own financial significance. It is thanks to this that Leo will occupy a special place in the overall picture of the year, where those who are able to work with numbers that for most will remain just loud headlines will be remembered. Virgo. In 2026, Virgo will find itself in a financial orbit where tens of millions will already be within reach, but 100 million will remain an unattainable milestone, like a bar that it can almost touch with its hand. In the interpretation of prophecies associated with the name of Nostradamus, her role will be particularly significant. It will be a sign that will not make it into the top 3, but will demonstrate that consistency, cold calculation, and work without pathos can lead to such a level of capital where the difference between almost 100 million and 100 million itself will be only a matter of time, not a matter of fundamental unattainability. The representative of this sign will act not through reckless risk-taking, but through a precise strategy. And each month of the year will have its own specific task in building this strategy. The beginning of the year for Virgo will be harshly pragmatic. In January, they will break down their financial life into separate blocks, like an analyst checking out someone else's company before buying it. They will review all sources of income: main job, side jobs, small ongoing projects, old obligations. Each area will be evaluated according to the following criteria: stability, growth, real benefit after spending time and nerves. If a certain activity brings little and takes a lot of effort, it will be classified as temporary and gradually phased out. At the same time, Virgo will compile a detailed list of expenses, not only large payments, but also small items such as regular food delivery, online services, and inconspicuous subscriptions. This month, she will openly cut out anything that does not make financial sense and will form the first tangible release of funds. In February, the focus will shift to increasing the value of her own work. Virgo will list her services, products, and competencies and compare them with the market. Where rates have been kept low for years, a correction will begin. If she works for a company, she will initiate a conversation about changing her position, the bonus system, and linking pay to performance. If she has a private practice or business, she will move from cheap and for everyone to more expensive, but for those who value quality. In February, toxic clients who are used to demanding the maximum for the minimum amount of money may disappear, and more demanding but also more solvent clients will come in their place. It is then that Virgo will begin to form a class of financial behavior where her time will no longer be wasted on trifles. March will be the month of the first systematic planning of the year, not only in terms of income, but also in terms of savings. Virgo will write down how much money should be in her accounts in May, August, and November, how much she will set aside at the end of each month, and what interim financial goals will be achieved by June and December. Several accounts or envelopes will appear: a reserve fund, an investment fund, money for business development, and a separate segment for large purchases. It is important that Virgo will not count on "I'll save up when I have the opportunity." She will set a strict rule: save first, then spend. This approach will make even modest incomes a tangible resource for future investments. In April, the optimization of work processes will come to the fore. Virgo will analyze where she wastes time: unnecessary meetings, endless correspondence, approvals that do not solve anything, tasks that can be delegated. She will cut down on the number of chaotic contacts and move on to clear regulations: how much time is allocated to the client, how agreements are formalized, what is paid for in advance. If Virgo has a team, she will introduce standards, accounting systems, deadlines, and internal rules that protect financial results. In April, the first tangible results will appear. With the same workload, there will be more money and less fatigue. May will be the month when Virgo begins to look for new sources of income. This will not be about spreading herself too thin, but about carefully expanding her portfolio. She will consider consulting, mentoring, creating paid materials, online products, and helping businesses in areas where she is competent. Some of the ideas will remain at the development stage, but one or two will begin to take shape. Virgo will test these areas on a small group of clients, refining the product structure, pricing policy, and format of cooperation. It is in May that the first payments from new channels will appear, which in the future may grow into serious lines of income. In June, attention will be focused on the topic of investments. Virgo will not rush to buy everything in a row, but will begin to study the possibilities more deeply. She will read about deposits, bonds, stock instruments, observe the real estate market in her country and abroad, and analyze examples of successful and failed investments by other people. If the word investment used to scare them, now it will be perceived as a working term. In June, the first cautious step is possible: opening an investment account, buying a small amount of simple instruments that have understandable returns and relatively low risk. For Virgos, it will be less about quick profits and more about learning through practice. Summer will continue the theme of broadening horizons. In July, Virgos will seriously consider tying part of their income to other markets. They will be interested in how platforms work, where they can sell their services or products in other countries, in other currencies, and how tax systems are set up in jurisdictions popular for business. Attention will be paid to currency risk. She will think about where it is more profitable to keep her savings: in the national currency, in dollars, euros, or perhaps in a combination of several options. July will be the moment when Virgo stops looking at money only in terms of her city or her country. August will be associated with a review of goals in the direction of greater boldness. After 6 months of systematic work, Virgo will see that her approach is bringing results. Income will grow, discipline will be maintained, and expenses will become controllable. During this period, they will allow themselves to think about higher goals, not just having a cushion, but reaching specific amounts of capital. For example, setting an intermediate target of several million for savings and determining how many years it will take to achieve this at the current rate. In August, Virgo will adjust her strategic plan, add new investment ideas, plan a possible real estate purchase, consider the option of creating or expanding her own company if she does not already have one. September will be the month when Virgo will take a tougher stance on partnerships. They will already see that some people around them are only taking advantage of their responsibility and accuracy, without sharing the risks and investing equally. They will review the terms of cooperation. In some cases, they will ask for a better percentage. In others, they will prescribe clear obligations. And in others, they will leave the partnership altogether. During this period, she will begin to feel that others can build their earnings on her consistency, but now this must be done on transparent and favorable terms. September's decisions will protect her from wasting energy on other people's projects that do not bring real returns. October will draw Virgo's attention to the legal side of money. She will be more careful with contracts, checking the registration of rights, ownership structure, and details of tax regimes. If previously some issues were formalized on trust or verbally, now everything will be recorded in writing. Virgos will consult with lawyers, accountants, and international transaction specialists if they have income from different countries. Their task will be to ensure that no weak spot becomes a point of attack when the amounts become truly significant. October will transform their financial system into a structure where all key elements are protected. November will be the month when Virgo begins to seriously think about the structure of capital in the long term. She will assess which assets can be easily converted into cash if necessary, which will work as a long-term resource, and which may become a problem if market conditions change. she will consider creating several separate baskets of capital, one for quick access to money, another for long-term investments, and a third for riskier but potentially very profitable projects. In November, she will develop a structure that can withstand the load if she moves to tens or even hundreds of millions. December will end Virgo's financial year not with a spectacular win, but with a sober conclusion. She will sit down with the numbers and see what has really changed in 12 months, how much income has grown, how much of this growth has become net profit, how much she has managed to save, how much is already working in investment instruments, and which obligations have become smaller or disappeared. She will see where there are still weaknesses that need to be corrected next year, which decisions were successful, and which should not be repeated. December will not bring her a symbolic 100 million, but it will show a clear trajectory along which such sums will cease to seem like fantasy. An important point in this forecast is that Virgo will not seek a lightning-fast leap. She will not put all her eggs in one basket, will not risk everything for the chance of one big win. Her strength will lie elsewhere, in the ability to build capital step by step, but reliably, without destroying what has already been created. That is why, in the grand story of the year, where the three who will reach 100 million will be mentioned, her name will be mentioned alongside them as an example of a smart, precise, and cool-headed approach. She will not have a bright moment of takeoff, but it will be a year when she will take several key steps that will separate her from the masses of people who will remain at the level of constant survival. She will learn to perceive money not as a source of anxiety, but as a tool to be mastered. She will wean herself off the typical pattern of earned, spent, regretted. Instead, she will form a sequence: earned, saved, invested, spent only what was left after making wise decisions. It is this logic that will put her on a trajectory where, over time, the numbers on paper will resemble those in the prophecies. And although in 2026, Virgo will not formally be among the top 3 who will take their 100 million, she will create for herself such an order in money that will bring her closer to this level than any random win. Libra. In 2026, Libra will behave as if the entire financial year will turn into a series of balanced decisions, where every step in money will be counterbalanced by possible consequences. Representatives of this sign will not chase after the grandiose figure of 100 million that the chosen ones will be aiming for, but they will come so close to big capital that at certain moments the difference between them and those mentioned in Nostradamus's prophecies will be only a matter of scale of ambition. Libras will form not just income, but their own financial style. Everything related to money will be balanced between risk and security, between quick profit and long-term stability, between the desire to have more and the need to remain in inner balance. In the first days of January, Libras will not allow themselves to make chaotic decisions. They will look at their finances as an established system: regular income, small side income, loans, limits, old extended obligations related to family, acquaintances, and joint purchases. Instead of feeling the usual pressure of, there is never enough money, they will sort out the numbers: total income for the past year, average monthly expenses, available savings, and actual debt burden. Libra will start the year with a sober picture, not hiding from any amount, and not shifting responsibility to circumstances. Already in January, he will establish a clear rule: no new debt obligations without a direct link to future income. In February, Libra will focus on the topic of self-worth. If previously part of their income was formed on the principle of as agreed, now they will approach this as contracts. They will determine the fair value of their work, services, and expertise, and understand that an incorrectly formed price will reject their dreams of big capital for years. Libras will review rates and cooperation models and refuse tasks where the pay does not match the responsibility. When working in a company, they will initiate a conversation about clear KPIs and a transparent bonus system. In private practice or business, they will change their approach. Fewer small, exhausting clients, more deals where an adequate budget is set from the outset. March will be the moment when Libra begins to introduce the idea of several financial pillars into their life. They will no longer be tied to a single source of income. They will think about how their strengths, diplomacy, the ability to negotiate, see the interests of all parties, and seek compromise, can be turned into a separate paid product. Ideas will emerge for intermediary services, consultation on negotiations, and participation in complex deals on behalf of those who are unable to conduct dialogue. March will be the month when Libras begin to test new formats. 1 or 2 paid negotiations, their first consulting experience, and the first results when their participation brings others noticeable financial gains. April will be different for Libras. They will focus more on how to make existing cash flows more predictable rather than on where to earn more. Libras will divide the year into financial blocks, linking a minimum and target income level to each month. They will calculate how much they need to earn in April, August, and October to meet their annual target. A specific table will appear showing where each part of the amount comes from, what has already been reserved by contracts, what still needs to be added, and what proposals should be initiated in the near future. The April approach will make finances a controlled process rather than a field of chance. In May, Libra will pay special attention to the topic of personal agreements. He will resolve pending situations, joint purchases, unfinished settlements, debts between friends, relatives, and colleagues. Instead of being afraid of ruining relationships, they will strive for transparency. Where they are owed money, they will delicately but clearly agree on a repayment schedule. Where they themselves have obligations, they will look for opportunities to pay them off in full, or at least in part, so that they can stop carrying this psychological burden. May will be a month of financial cleansing, when many stories that have dragged on for years will finally come to a concrete conclusion, and Libras will emerge from them with a sense of relief. June will bring a more strategic mood. Libra will view the summer months as a period for increasing turnover. They will calculate which projects are worth activating in the summer, when some of their competitors will be relaxing or going on vacation. They may plan to launch new services, update their offerings for their customers, expand their geography, and reach audiences in other cities or countries. June will not be about rest, but about preparing for the leap that will take place in the coming months if all the planned steps are implemented. In July, Libra will begin to see the first results of this preparation. Some old connections will be reactivated, and new clients will get in touch based on recommendations. Libra will skillfully seize these opportunities, responding quickly, clearly formulating conditions, and not giving in during negotiations just to be liked. They will form an image of a person who not only talks about balance, but also knows how to maintain it. They do not agree to unfavorable conditions, but also do not raise the stakes to the point of rejection. July will show how mature their financial position is. Will they be able to maintain a decent price for their work, even when there is a temptation to give in to pressure? August for Libras will be a month associated with the question, what to do with the surplus? If the first half of the year is productive, by this point there will be some money that is not needed for daily expenses. Libra will not keep everything in one account. They will begin to structure their savings. Some will remain in liquid form, some will be transferred to fixed income instruments, and some will be invested in longer-term projects. This could be their first investment in small real estate, the purchase of land, or participation in a joint project with people they trust. August will be the point where Libra stops thinking in terms of the main thing is to earn, and moves on to the logic of it is important to distribute correctly. September will reinforce the theme of partnerships, but not on an everyday level, but on a more serious one. Libra will be interested in the opportunity to combine resources with people who have what they lack: capital, contacts, technology, access to certain markets. They will already have an understanding of how partnership agreements are written, how shares are fixed, and how profits are distributed. Libra will enter into negotiations not from the position of a supplicant, but from the position of a valuable participant who brings balance, a sense of fairness, and the ability to take into account the interests of all parties to the project. September will bring them their first serious agreements for the future. October will be the month when the question of the extent of self-confidence arises. Libra will begin to realize that managing larger sums will mean working with a higher level of responsibility. If he has company budgets, joint funds of partners, and client funds that he will help distribute or invest in his hands, there will be a need for transparency. They will establish regular reporting for themselves, for partners, for those who trust them with money. No, it'll be fine. Only specific figures, graphs, and periodic reports. In October, Libras will switch from I earn for myself mode to I manage other people's money as if it were my own mode. November will be a month of testing the stability of the system for Libra. There may be delays in payments, unexpected expenses, changes in conditions on the part of partners or the market. It is at this time that it will become clear whether the reserve was well thought out, whether it is possible to cover the shortfall from other sources, and whether the entire financial plan is tied to one or two large contracts. If Libras have built up sufficient reserves in previous months, November will be a test that the system will withstand without disaster. If they ignore these things, acute tensions may arise in November. But the forecast predicts that Libras will choose the first option and use the test as a basis for even more thoughtful planning for the next year. December will raise a logical question. How far have Libra's finances actually come? They will make an overall assessment: income for the year, average monthly amount, total savings, investments, remaining loans, and assets that have appeared during the year. He will separately calculate what part of his income comes from his personal work and what part comes from systems in which he once invested and will now reap the rewards. This figure will show something important. Libra will not yet be at the level where $100 million of capital is created in 1 year, but its income and asset structure will be much closer to the models of those who will be in the financial top 3 of the year. Throughout 2026, Libra will work on one key skill: the ability not to go to extremes. They will not live in a mode of constant saving, depriving themselves of everything for the sake of an abstract goal. At the same time, they will not spend every extra dollar on instant gratification. Balance will be evident in everything: a reasonable standard of living, well-planned leisure time, investments in health, education, and an environment that increases productivity. Libra will reject the all-or-nothing approach, choosing instead a different path, a structure that produces results at every stage. Libra's environment will also undergo changes. Those who can keep their word, adhere to agreements, and work honestly and openly will remain by their side. People who constantly postpone meetings, evade clear figures, and promise more than they can deliver will gradually fade away. They will be replaced by partners who think in terms of mutual benefit, clear conditions, transparent profit sharing, and understandable responsibilities for each party. This environment will become one of the most important factors for Libra, pushing them to greater heights. Libra will learn to perceive big money not as something that necessarily carries danger and destroys balance, but as a tool that can be integrated into a harmonious life. They will imagine not just a number in their account, but how their day will be organized when they have serious amounts of capital at their disposal, what projects they will support, what businesses they will launch, what social initiatives they will be able to finance, what conditions they will create for themselves and their loved ones. It is this approach, not to the amount, but to the role, that will make his financial path sustainable. And although Nostradamus, in the legends that will be passed down, will attribute exactly 100 million to only 3, the story of Libra in 2026 will look like a demonstration that even without participating in this first league, the sign is capable of building a model of financial life that can later be scaled to a level comparable to these figures. Libra will not be the one who risks everything for one big leap, but will be the one who, over the course of the year, will learn step by step to maintain a balance between the desire to earn and the ability to save, between the opportunity to take more and the ability to remain in a state of inner equilibrium. And it is this balance that will become their main financial achievement in a year that will be talked about as a time of large sums and big decisions. Scorpio. In 2026, people will talk about Scorpio differently. His name will be associated not with minor blows of fate, but with very large sums of money, which will be subject to a harsh will and cold calculation. He will not try to please the system, but will behave as someone who enters the financial game as an equal. In versions of prophecies associated with Nostradamus, it is Scorpio who will come into view as a contender for one of the 3 positions where the sum of 100 million will be mentioned in 2026. For him, this will not be a gift, but the result of how he exploits market weaknesses, other people's mistakes, neglected opportunities, and his own ability to see things through to the end where others give up. In January, Scorpio will not chase quick money. He will do what most people ignore, analyze the shady aspects of his financial life. He will dig up all the unfavorable agreements, old debts, unwritten contracts, and long-standing amounts owed to him that no one remembers anymore. Representatives of this sign will leave no grey areas. Either the situation will be converted into clear terms and amounts, or it will be terminated. It is in January that they will begin to build a reputation as people who cannot be taken lightly when it comes to money. This month will be like an internal audit, after which there will be nothing left that can be used against him in major deals. In February, Scorpio will deliberately engage in tough negotiations. He will initiate conversations that partners, management, or clients have long avoided about increasing his share, switching to a new payment format, or redistributing profits. Where others choose soft wording, he will name numbers and conditions. In February, they will reject models in which their role is underestimated, even if it threatens conflict. As a result, either the cooperation will be rewritten on terms favorable to him, or it will end, freeing up space for new partners. At this stage, Scorpio will cease to be a useful executor and become a figure to be reckoned with. March will bring situations in which Scorpio will see what others will perceive as chaos. Cracks may begin to appear in the market or in his professional sphere. Someone will go bankrupt, someone will leave the niche, someone will sell their business out of fear of change. It is at these points that he will see not the end, but the beginning. In March, the first steps may be taken towards buying out shares, acquiring undervalued assets, and entering into projects that are falling apart due to weak management, but have a good foundation. Scorpio will act decisively, but not blindly. He will back up every decision with rigorous analysis of the numbers. This will be the month when his interest in crisis management begins to bring real financial benefits. April will be a time for him to create a secret but very clear financial plan, known only to a limited circle of people. They will write down for themselves what amounts they need to reach by the end of the year, taking into account potential deals, contracts already signed, and opportunities that are only in the pipeline. This plan will include specific figures for the end of June, September, and November, as well as the amount of assets they will strive for by December. In April, Scorpio will not waste time on general dreams. He will record the minimum and maximum scenarios and assess which decisions will increase the chance of reaching at least the upper limit. He will think in terms of scenarios, but he will speak in terms of clear numbers. In May, Scorpio will move on to specific deals. If in previous months they were just testing the waters, now signed documents will begin to appear. This could be entering into a business as a partner with a share, purchasing a distressed asset at a discount, or setting special payment terms for their professional support of complex projects, where they will act as a crisis manager. In May, they will spend more energy on legal details, carefully reading the clauses, checking the wording, demanding the inclusion of guarantees, penalties, and clear dates. No verbal agreements. Everything will be put into documents that can be presented in case of a dispute. June will mark the first noticeable jump in income for Scorpio. Some of the agreements signed in the spring will start to bring in money. These may be payments for participation in restructuring, fees for successful negotiations, or the first tranches for a block of shares or a stake in a company that he agreed to get back on its feet. The speed with which they will bring other people's chaotic processes into structure will surprise even those who have known them for a long time. In June, they will feel that their usual income no longer corresponds to the level of stress and responsibility at which they work. And this feeling will not be an internal complaint. It will be confirmed by their accounts. July for Scorpio will be marked by concentration. He will already have several open financial fronts, and how he distributes his attention will determine whether these fronts turn into a line of attack or a field of exhaustion. In July, they will abandon secondary areas that do not have the potential to generate large sums of money. Their list of active projects will become shorter, but each of them will have a clear financial meaning, a clear monetization model, a clear payback period, and growth potential. July will be the month when Scorpio stops trying to hold on to everything at once and allows himself to set strict priorities, even if it means leaving projects to which he was once emotionally attached. In August, he will pay attention not only to how much he will earn, but also to how that money will be protected. Scorpio will begin to build the first real shield for their capital. This could be insurance policies for key assets, legally sound property structures, transferring part of their money to secure instruments, opening accounts in different banks or even jurisdictions so as not to depend on a single system decision. They will understand well that large sums attract attention and will not rely solely on luck. August will be the month when the structure of their finances will begin to take on the appearance of people with completely different amounts of capital. September will bring the feeling that they are entering a higher level of the financial game. At this time, offers that previously seemed unattainable may appear. Participation in closed investment circles, entry into companies where the starting ticket will be measured in amounts that he would not have even thought of a few years ago. Invitations to joint projects involving not thousands, but tens of millions. Scorpio will not rush into any high-profile opportunity. They will ask about the real figures, ownership structure, company history, and exit conditions. If something looks like a beautifully painted wrapper with no substance, they will calmly refuse, even if others call them too cautious. In October, Scorpio will focus more on managing what has already been launched rather than on new deals. It will be a month of control. Checking budgets, reports, compliance with agreements by partners, real profitability indicators, and strategy adjustments. Where the figures do not match what was promised, he will initiate tough talks and demand changes, a different team, replacement of contractors, strengthening of marketing, and review of expenses. In October, his ability to not be afraid of conflict in order to preserve financial results will become apparent. He will not leave the problem for later, because he will understand that when it comes to big money, procrastination is more expensive than an unpopular decision. November will be a time for Scorpio to test their readiness to accept large numbers. By this point, they will already see that the total value of assets, business interests, and cash flows is approaching a level that in ordinary conversation would sound like fantastic money. In November, they will ask themselves other questions, not do they deserve it, but how to keep this structure from falling apart. They will review the structure of the staff, the distribution of responsibilities, and the sequence of processes. Where everything rests on them alone, they will look for people capable of closing individual blocks without their constant presence. November for him will not be about chasing new deals, but about strengthening the supporting pillars of the system he has already built. December will bring Scorpio to the point where he can compare his real financial situation with the legends about 3 signs and 100 million. At this point, he may have several large assets, shares in companies that will generate profits, real estate that will bring income, packages of high-value instruments, and cash reserves converted into safe formats. When he puts everything into one document, the figure he sees will either reach or come as close as possible to the mark mentioned in the prophecy. The main difference will be that for him, it will not look like winning the lottery. It will be a coldly calculated result of a year in which each month was used as an element of a large financial combination. Throughout 2026, Scorpio will not try to impress those who evaluate him through emotions. They will work for a different circle, people who will only look at the result. Their style will be harsh, sometimes difficult for those around them, but it is this style that will allow them to enter areas where more cautious signs would not even go near. They will be ready to take risks, but will not allow the risk to be chaotic. He will analyze every step that could bring him closer to 9-figure sums. What will happen if everything goes according to plan? What will happen if it goes against him? How much he is willing to lose to get a chance to reach a new level? It is this behavior that will make Scorpio a natural participant in the trio that will be talked about in 2026, mentioning the sum of 100 million. He will not wait to be invited to this game. He will enter the arena where big money is at stake and take what is his, relying not on luck, but on his ability to work where others are afraid to even look at deals. And when the year comes to an end, his financial trajectory will look like confirmation that sometimes it is the toughest approach to money that allows you not only to reach legendary figures, but also to keep them in your hands. Sagittarius. Sagittarius in the 2026 financial year will be distinguished by one thing: they will not settle for average results. Their approach to money will turn into a purposeful march towards very large sums, and every month of the year will push them towards bolder decisions. In predictions associated with Nostradamus, Sagittarius will be among those who have a chance to enter the top 3 signs for whom the sum of 100 million will become a reality in 2026. But the path to this figure will not be accidental. It will be built step by step. In January, Sagittarius will start with an honest conversation with themselves. They will look at their finances without embellishment, how much they actually earn, which projects bring in real money, what eats up time without monetary equivalent. They will compile a dry table, income by area, expenses by category, real balance. Anything that looks interesting but doesn't bring anything will go into a separate column. In January, Sagittarius will decide that they will no longer waste energy on activities that have no potential for scaling. They will not limit themselves to phrases like, "I'll look at it later," but will make a decision. They will leave the area if they see a chance to develop it into a serious income, or they will close it completely. In February, they will move into the active phase. If they have been working as a specialist until now, in February, they will begin to act as the owner of their time and competencies. They will initiate discussions about revising rates, bonuses, and percentages of results. If they depend on clients, they will revise their prices so that they have room for growth, different package levels, surcharges for urgency, and separate rates for large customers. Sagittarius will not agree to be the cheap option because they understand that low prices will block the path to big numbers. February negotiations will be tense, but it is at this time that new conditions will begin to take shape, which they will enter into in the coming months. March will be the month when Sagittarius launches ideas that he has been developing for a long time. These are his own products or services that have the potential to generate income not once, but dozens and hundreds of times. Online courses, author programs, digital materials, paid communities, subscription projects. They will not waste time trying to please everyone at once. They will choose a specific target audience to whom they can deliver results. In March, they will record the first modules, prepare platforms, structure content, and build a sales funnel. His goal will not be simply to launch something, but to create a mechanism where each new client will bring not only a one-time payment, but also additional opportunities, recommendations, case studies, and a basis for raising prices. April for Sagittarius shifts the focus to partnerships. He will no longer see himself as a lone player. They will look for those who complement their strengths: marketers, technical specialists, lawyers, financiers, those who know how to set up advertising, build sales departments, and automate processes. In April, they will negotiate not a pay-and-forget format, but models based on a percentage of turnover or profit. Sagittarius will understand that if a partner is interested in the result, they will work differently. At this time, the first agreements may be signed, which will include provisions on profit sharing, bonuses for exceeding targets, and participation in scaling. In May, they will begin to test their ability to scale in practice. If the project started in March and the partnership structure was outlined in April, then May will be devoted to attracting a larger audience and more difficult clients. Sagittarius will activate advertising channels and enter the public space. Interviews, speeches, joint broadcasts, participation in events where people with money gather. He will shape the image of a person who speaks the language of results, not promises. The first months of this year will show whether he is ready to keep up the pace when requests come in simultaneously from different sides. In May, the first large contracts, which previously seemed unattainable, are possible. June will be needed for correction. By this point, Sagittarius may have taken on too much, and some processes will begin to stall. He will take a hard look at what works and what simply drains his energy. Several areas may be shut down without regret, even if they bring in some income, but do not have the potential for serious growth. Sagittarius will focus on what can be scaled up, products that can be sold in different countries, services that can be standardized, and part of the work can be delegated to the team, models where growth is not tied to the number of personal hours. In June, he will establish new working rules. Anything that does not offer the prospect of reaching tens of millions will be set aside. July will be a turning point for Sagittarius, when he will start thinking like an investor. Part of what he earned in the first half of the year will no longer be dissolved in expenses. They will set aside amounts to be used for the purchase of assets. First of all, they will be interested in simple but understandable things: real estate to be rented out, shares in businesses that are already showing a profit, instruments with predictable returns. July will not be a time for risky experiments. It will be a month when the first bricks of long-term capital are laid. Sagittarius will agree to receive a little less now, but will have a stable income in the future. August will reinforce this line. They will more actively consider opportunities for geographical diversification, real estate in other cities or countries, accounts in different banks, business areas that will work not only locally. Sagittarius will understand that big money does not stay in one market. They will consult with experts, analyze tax conditions, and look at the growth statistics of specific segments. In August, they may decide to purchase an asset that seems too expensive at the time, but will later become one of the pillars of their capital. September will be a month of financial discipline. After the active and rather aggressive growth of the first 8 months of the year, Sagittarius will feel the need to control the movement of money more strictly. They will introduce clear budgets, separately for business, separately for personal expenses, and separately for investments. No mixing, no impulsive spending of funds that should be working on a large scale. Sagittarius will set limits on emotional purchases and luxuries if they take away reserves from the investment segment. September will teach him to treat capital as a tool, not as a resource for instant gratification. In October, he will seriously engage in the legal formalization of what has already been created. Business structure, partnership agreements, product rights, trademarks, lease agreements, investment contracts. All of this will require attention. Sagittarius will work with lawyers, accountants, and consultants to secure his position so that no weak wording will turn against him when the amounts become even larger. He will put in order the documents that he previously put off for later, but which will now become the protection of his money. November will be a month of setting sights on the next big goals. Sagittarius will assess where they will be after 10 months of work. If at the beginning of the year it was about millions, by the end of November they will be thinking in terms of tens of millions in total business value, assets, and cash flow. During this period, they will begin to prepare the ground for the final push, establishing new partnerships for large-scale projects, where the turnover will already be calculated in very large sums, agreeing on the framework of potential deals, and forming the core of the team that will withstand the workload of 2027. In December, the result will come to the fore, which will differ from the usual calculations. Sagittarius will not limit himself to checking how much he has earned in a year. He will assess the value of everything that has been created, businesses that are already functioning, shares in companies, real estate, investment portfolio, cash reserves. When he adds up these figures, the total amount may come close to the level that prophecies refer to as the 100 million mark. If there is still a small gap to this mark, he will clearly see how he will cross it during the next period. Importantly, this figure will not seem fantastical to him. It will be a logical continuation of how he has been working all year. Throughout the 12 months of 2026, Sagittarius will not put comfort or stability first. Growth will be his priority. He will agree to difficult negotiations, risky business ventures, but with calculated scenarios, and a fast pace with his days scheduled by the hour. They will have to give up some of their usual pleasures for the opportunity to invest in assets that will bring in tens of times more. They will work not only to ensure a good life for themselves, but also to create a system that can function without their constant involvement. Sagittarius's environment will change. People who think small will step aside. Those who are used to operating large projects, who are driven by numbers rather than envy or fear, will remain close by. Sagittarius will learn to keep their distance from those who slow them down with words like risky, too bold, and better not to stick your neck out. Instead, they will attract those who are ready to take risks, but know how to count. Financially, this year will take them to another level. Not only will they come close to the 100 million mark, but they will also learn to handle money the way those who have been playing in this league for a long time do. Diversification, protection, structured investments, clear contracts, partner selection, and turning down random deals in favor of bigger ones. That is why in 2026, Sagittarius will not look like a person who is just lucky. He will give the impression of someone who has brought himself to a sum that others will only hear about in loud headlines and legends about the chosen signs of the zodiac. Capricorn. Throughout 2026, Capricorn will manage money as if they are going to build their own financial system from scratch, not a separate business, not a set of small side jobs, but a complete structure that will withstand the load of tens and even hundreds of millions. In the legends about Nostradamus's prophecies, he will not appear to be a man who is accidentally lucky. His role will be different. He is the one who will prove that cold strategy, technological thinking, and iron self-discipline can lead to figures that most people would not even dare to mention aloud. At the beginning of January, representatives of this sign will not entertain themselves with illusions. In the first weeks of the year, they will collect all financial data, just as a manager collects reports before a major audit. Contracts, salaries, additional income, account balances, debt obligations, credit lines, signed but not yet implemented contracts. They will continue to enter this into a single system, a table, financial software, or their own model, where every line will have meaning. Capricorns will see which areas are dragging them down and which have growth potential. At the end of January, they will form their main rule for the year: no moves that do not fit into a long-term strategy. February will not be a month of sharp jumps, but it will allow Capricorn to change their status. If they are employed, during this period they will begin to act as a person who is internally preparing to take on a higher level of responsibility than their current position. They will take on complex projects and join working groups where issues of budget, resources, and risks are decided. They will show initiative where others remain silent. If they are already running a business, in February, they will review the management model. They will define powers, eliminate dual management, and reduce approval chains that slow down profits. At this time, he will calmly, without fanfare, but very clearly redraw the map of his roles so that he is closer to the center of influence on money. March for Capricorn will be associated with a new work regime. They will not throw themselves into a frantic number of tasks. On the contrary, they will structure their day as if preparing to manage a large financial organization. In the morning, priority decisions, financial plans, key negotiations, control of critical indicators. Closer to lunchtime, strategic meetings, project discussions, teamwork. In the afternoon, analytics, planning, checking expenses. In March, there will be regular snapshots, weekly reviews of figures, where Capricorn will track whether he is moving towards the desired values in terms of income, profit, and free cash flow. He will change his attitude toward the calendar. Each month will look not just like a period of time, but like a financial reporting period. In the spring, it will become apparent that Capricorn is reaching a new level of influence. Throughout April, he will be involved in processes where large budget issues are decided. When it comes to their career, They will not just be an employee, but a person who has a real impact on the financial results of a department or company. They will cut unnecessary expenses, implement standards that reduce losses, and propose different formats for working with suppliers, customers, and contractors. If it is his own business, he will test new business models, subscriptions, service contracts, long-term agreements with key customers. In April, he will clearly feel that where he used to just follow orders, now he will determine the rules of the game. In May, Capricorn will discover his ability to work with long cycles. They will not seek instant returns, but will launch projects that will show maximum financial effect in a few months or even years. These may be investments in technology development, the launch of a new direction, the creation of a product that will require serious investment at the start, but will provide a steady income in the future. In May, he will analyze markets, study reports, compare niche segments, and read case studies from other players. The decisions made at this time will not be flashy, but they will invest in future millions. June will bring the first visible financial proof points. Some of the decisions made in winter and spring will begin to bear fruit. These may be bonuses for optimization, additional bonuses for growth in performance, and the first payments under new contracts. Capricorn will not take this as an excuse to relax. On the contrary, he will use this money as fuel for a new round. Part of the funds will go towards strengthening the system, hiring the best specialists, purchasing technological solutions, and improving the level of service. June will teach them an important lesson. A short surge in income is meaningless if it is not reinforced by investments in infrastructure. July will be marked by a focus on what will bring the greatest financial effect. This month, Capricorn will reject anything that does not meet the required level of scale. Small orders, toxic clients, projects with vague prospects, unnecessary intermediaries, all of this will gradually disappear from the picture. Instead of spreading themselves thin, they will build several powerful financial streams. One, their main business or key position. The second, a new direction that has already proven its viability. And the third, an investment segment that is beginning to generate income. July will be the moment when he will feel that he is really in control of the game, rather than just reacting to circumstances. In August, Capricorn will begin to go beyond the local market. He will be interested in how his competencies or business models can work in other cities or countries. If they are employed, they will not rule out the possibility of moving to an international company where their experience in managing complex systems will be in demand and paid differently. If they are an entrepreneur, they will consider options for entering another language or legal space with their product or service. In August, there may be important trips, online negotiations with investors or partners from abroad, and analysis of tax regimes in other jurisdictions. Their thinking will change. My market will no longer be limited to one country. September will be a time when Capricorns will begin to work more actively with financial institutions. They will not perceive banks as enemies or simply as a place to store funds. They will see them as a tool and a partner. They will review limits, negotiate investment products, credit lines for business development, service conditions for large sums, and individual packages for capital. Where others will be satisfied with standard packages, they will demand personalized conditions. In September, he will establish contacts with financial advisors, brokers, and insurance experts, forming a circle of professionals around him who will help him work with large sums of money competently. In October, Capricorn will pay special attention to the topic of risks. He will conduct stress tests for himself. What will happen if one of the business areas temporarily slumps, if one of the partners leaves the project, if the market takes an unfavorable turn? They will calculate the options, which expenses can be cut without harming the foundation, where there are reserves, which assets can be quickly converted into cash, and which cannot be touched under any circumstances. October will not be a month of panic. On the contrary, it will give Capricorn a sense of control. They will know that even in the event of severe shocks, the system will not collapse immediately. November will reveal the extent of the changes in the financial picture. By this point, the total value of what Capricorn manages will have grown significantly. Businesses in which they are a majority or important partner, real estate that they will acquire or sign preliminary contracts for, investment portfolios, and long-term contracts. For the first time, they may compare all these elements in a single document and see a sum that previously seemed unattainable. November will be the month when they realize that they are no longer just earning money, but actually owning capital. It will then become clear why they will be so persistently mentioned alongside those signs for which the sum of 100 million is announced. December will not be an emotional celebration for Capricorn. He will approach the end of the year as serious organizations approach the end of a financial cycle, with a complete breakdown of figures, analysis of strong and weak decisions, and correction of strategy for the coming years. They will evaluate not only how much they have received, but also what they have created, which systems work without them, what part of the income comes in regardless of their daily intervention, how competently the rights are formalized, whether the assets are protected legally, fiscally, and documentarily. December will be the point from which it will be clear that 2026 will transform Capricorn from a person who works well and saves money into a person who manages a multi-level financial structure. This whole structure will be held together not by luck, but by a way of thinking. In 2026, Capricorn will stop seeing money as a reward for work. They will see it as a tool of influence and a resource for implementing long-term plans. They will make decisions without unnecessary fuss, but each of them will have a specific financial meaning. They will not chase after high-profile opportunities, but will take what others underestimate: boring but highly profitable niches, control over processes, participation in strategic points where the fate of large budgets is decided. That is why, when it comes to the 3 signs capable of reaching the $100 million mark in 2026, Capricorn will be the one who not only approaches this amount, but does so in such a way that his financial empire will not crumble after the first blow. His year will be about building foundations: legal, organizational, investment, and human. He will work without hysterics, without ostentatious glamour, but it is on him that the part of the financial map of the year will rest, where the figures have long gone beyond the usual notions of good earnings. Aquarius. In 2026, Aquarius will treat money as if they were working on their own financial experiment. They will not limit themselves to the usual ways of earning money, but will create several parallel income systems for themselves based on ideas, technologies, and people. Their path to large sums will differ from other signs in that their main capital will not be their starting budget, but rather their non-standard thinking and ability to connect to trends before they become obvious to the majority. In the legends about Nostradamus's prophecies, Aquarius will be remembered not as a lucky guy, but as someone who will turn the future into a source of profit long before others realize what has happened. Aquarius will use the first weeks of January not for chaotic starts, but for setting up their own coordinate system. They will compile a list of their skills, digital tools, contacts, access to platforms, audiences, and knowledge in specific niches. This will not be an abstract self-assessment, but a practical list. In what areas are they really better than average? What have they already been paid for? and in which areas have they been one step ahead of others. At the same time, they will analyze which global themes are gaining momentum. New service models, artificial intelligence, automation, educational platforms, remote collaboration formats, and creative industries related to digital technology. By the end of January, they will have a map of intersections, where their skills can connect with future trends to bring in money not just once, but for a long time. In February, Aquarius will not chase after any offers. He will consciously weed out everything that is tied only to physical time. Small orders by the hour, routine tasks with no growth prospects, situational side jobs that do not change anything in the long run. Instead, they will choose formats where their contribution makes multiple income possible. Digital products, licenses, subscription services, consulting in areas that can be scaled via the internet. During this period, they will formulate a rule for themselves. Each new project must either provide direct access to a larger audience, build a reputation in a promising niche, or open a channel for cooperation with powerful partners. March will be the month when Aquarius will begin creating its first line of products or services that will be tightly tied to specific market needs. They will not come up with abstract ideas. Instead, they will analyze requests. What entrepreneurs looking for automation are missing? What problems remain unresolved for people working remotely? What pain points freelancers, small businesses, and content creators have? Based on this, he will create solutions, service packages, ready-made systems, templates, tools, training programs, and assistance with process configuration. He will use March for prototypes, minimal but working products that can already be sold to the first customers and tested for demand. April will add momentum. This month, Aquarius will begin to bring the solutions he has developed to a wider audience. He will set up sales pages, describe the benefits in plain language, organize the first advertising campaigns, joint broadcasts, and participation in thematic online events. They will use their strength, the ability to think systematically but explain simply. Thanks to this, the products will look logical, understandable, and useful, rather than just another course for the sake of courses. It is in April that the first stable sales will appear, showing that the chosen model will work not only at the idea level. In May, Aquarius will shift the focus from launch to scaling. He will begin to build funnels, a sequence of touches with the audience, where free materials will lead to inexpensive products, those to flagship packages, and then to premium offers for a narrow circle of customers. He will set up automated emails, sales scripts, and checklists for the team so that the process does not break down if the number of requests doubles. May will be the month when he stops doing everything himself. Part of the routine will be handed over to assistants or contractors, and his own role will shift towards strategy, product, and key negotiations. June will be the first significant shift in revenue. During this time, the number of customers and partners who return to Aquarius or bring others will grow. He will not only control sales volumes, but also build a unit economy. How much it costs to attract one customer, what the average check is, what percentage of people buy something extra, how profit will change when the advertising budget doubles. In June, they will begin to think not in terms of individual deals, but in terms of financial models. Under what parameters will their system reach a certain turnover threshold? What changes will take them to the next level? In July, Aquarius will look at their activities as an ecosystem. In addition to the main products, he may have additional lines, related services, partnership projects, joint programs with other experts or businesses. He will enter into partnership agreements, where he will receive a percentage of sales for recommending or integrating his solutions into other people's products. July will be a period when part of their income will no longer depend directly on their personal time. The more clients their partner has, the more money they will earn. They will use August to go beyond the boundaries of one language or country. Aquarius will understand that digital products and services can be easily scaled to other markets if the presentation is adapted correctly. They will look for translators, local experts, and partners to help them reformulate and sell their solutions in other regions. This month, they will have their first experience with multi-currency revenues. Some sales will be in one currency, some in another. They will begin to see the difference in the purchasing power of their audiences and adjust prices accordingly. August will be about not being afraid of the status of an international player, even if only on a small scale for now. Aquarius will devote September to structuring their savings. By this point, there will be significantly more money in their accounts, and they will refuse to keep everything in one basket. They will create separate segments: a reserve fund, an investment fund, funds for product development, and money for personal needs. Each area will have its own rules. The reserve will not be touched unless absolutely necessary. The investment part will work through selected instruments. The business fund will only be used for expenses that can lead to growth in turnover. The personal budget will not exceed a set percentage of net profit. September will lay the foundation for his financial security. In October, Aquarius will begin to explore investment opportunities more deeply. They will be interested in more than just the classic put it on deposit and forget it scheme. They will analyze the meaning of corporate bonds, how funds that invest in technology companies work, and where it is possible to enter startups not at the idea stage, but at the stage when they are already showing their first results. They will not chase maximum returns. Instead, they will arrange their instruments according to risk and horizon. What can be held for the short term, what for the medium term, and what for the long term. October will be the month when Aquarius makes their first conscious investments outside their own business, laying the foundation for passive income. November will add another dimension to this, the human one. Aquarius will see more and more clearly that their financial results directly depend on who they work with. They will review their professional environment. Some will remain as reliable partners, while others will be weeded out due to unfulfilled obligations, delays, and a lack of transparency in financial matters. They will consciously reduce the number of casual connections and expand their network of contacts with people who already operate with large sums of money. November will be the month when they finally stop being afraid of their expensive environment and start to perceive it as the norm for their new level. In December, Aquarius will sit down with their numbers, not just to calculate how much they have earned in a year, but to see what kind of system they have managed to create. They will assess how many sources of income are actually working, what share their own time brings, how much the products and automated funnels they launched once bring in, how much money has already been transferred to investment instruments, and what the value of the digital assets they have accumulated is, customer bases, product rights, and the brand they have created. When comparing this data, it will become clear that although he will not necessarily be in the conditional top 3 for whom the 100 million mark will be mentioned, Aquarius's trajectory will be directed precisely towards this scale. Throughout 2026, Aquarius will not focus on the straightforward work more, earn more model. They will build an approach of organize smarter, earn more steadily. Their trump cards will be flexibility of thinking, willingness to test new formats, openness to foreign markets, and the ability to construct financial systems based on ideas rather than hard physical labor. They will be cautious with risks, but not paralyzed by fear. In every decision, they will look for opportunities to limit potential losses and increase possible gains. To those around them, Aquarius's financial year will look like a series of bold moves that, for some reason, always work. In reality, this will be backed by clear calculations, months of analysis, and discipline that will not be obvious but will work every day. And it is thanks to this that he will approach the scale that will be talked about when recalling the legends of the 3 signs capable of reaching incredible financial heights in 2026. Pisces. Financially, 2026 will be the year when money ceases to be a background and becomes a clearly managed resource for Pisces. Representatives of this sign will not go with the flow of circumstances. They will consciously build their path to large sums, even if they do not formally enter the narrow trio mentioned in connection with Nostradamus's prophecies and the number 100 million. Pisces will create their own financial scenario, in which it is not random gifts of fate that will matter, but a combination of intuitive insight, practical decisions, and a willingness to work with money without fear or self-sabotage. In early January, Pisces will suppress their habit of putting off financial decisions until later. They will approach their income not with a sense of shame, but as a problem to be solved. At the beginning of the month, they will make a list of how much their main job or business brings in, what small but stable amounts come in from side jobs, and what exactly is sinking and creating holes in the budget. Pisces will record rent, loans, subscriptions, emotional purchases, and expenses on their surroundings. Already in January, they will set specific limits. For example, how much they will be allowed to spend spontaneously, and how much will be directed towards savings and development. That same month, they will open a separate account or a conditional envelope where they will systematically set aside a portion of each income, even if it is a symbolic amount at the start. February will be the month when Pisces change their attitude towards their own work. If they previously agreed to pay on a take-it-or-leave-it basis, in February they will be more rigorous in comparing their skills and results with what they actually receive. Where the rate is clearly underestimated, Pisces will initiate a conversation about a raise, a review of their fee, or new conditions. If the reaction is cold, they will not stop there, but will start looking for alternatives. Another company, other projects, another customer segment. In February, they will strengthen their inner conviction that their time and talent are worth more than what they are used to being paid. March will open up the topic of additional sources of income for Pisces, but not in the form of chaotic side jobs. They will not take on everything in a row, but will look for areas where their natural empathy, ability to listen, analyze, and support people will turn into a valuable product. This could be consulting in areas where they already have experience, working with clients in creative industries, helping to organize processes, mentoring, or personal consultations. March will be filled with the first trial formats, test sessions, small service packages, and collaborations with those who already have an audience. During this period, Pisces will be convinced that they can earn not only by hire, but also on their own behalf. In April, they will reach a new level of self-presentation. Pisces will create profiles, portfolios, and pages where they will clearly show what they can do and what results they bring. They will stop being shy about talking about themselves professionally, what they do, who they work with, what cases they have. Where they were previously held back by the fear of appearing boastful, in April, they will realize that if they don't show their value, no one will pay market price for it. This month, the first clients may appear who come not through recommendations, but from the open space, through social networks, specialized platforms, and public appearances. May will be associated with an attempt to combine intuition and numbers. Pisces will be able to sense when it is time to take a step forward, but now they will not be limited to just their inner feelings. They will start to calculate. How much money is needed to switch to a different format of work or open a new direction? What is the minimum monthly income needed to feel confident? What expenses can be optimized without losing quality of life? In May, they will test small investments in themselves, training, tools, and software that will increase efficiency. These investments will be the first step toward increasing income in a systematic rather than chaotic way. June will strengthen Pisces' contact with the topic of passive or semi-passive income. If before they focused mainly on earning for work, now they will look at tools that can bring in money without their constant involvement. They will study deposits, bonds, simple investment funds, and analyze the opportunities available in their country and online. Part of their savings will be directed into these instruments, even if the amounts are modest at first. June will teach Pisces to see not only how much they earn, but also how much works for them while they go about their business. July will be a period when Pisces will take a closer look at their surroundings. They will begin to notice who in their circle constantly feeds the model of "there is not enough money, everything is bad, there is no point in trying." Some of these contacts will naturally drift away. Fewer common topics, fewer meetings, less correspondence. Instead, Pisces will gradually draw people who know how to work with finances more responsibly. Entrepreneurs, specialists, colleagues who have goals and take real steps to achieve them. July will be a month when not only the balance of income will change, but also the financial atmosphere of their lives. August will focus on discipline. This month, Pisces will set clear limits for themselves, what they cannot do with money under any circumstances. For example, not taking on unnecessary loans, not borrowing amounts that will be difficult to repay, not spending their last savings on emotional purchases. They can write down basic financial rules for themselves and refer back to them in moments of temptation. At the same time, August will give them a chance to make themselves heard in places where they previously remained silent, to propose new formats for cooperation, prepare projects for grants, competitions, and business programs, and agree to participate in joint launches. September will be a time to take stock of the past 3 quarters. Pisces will look at what they have already managed to change, how much their income has grown, whether the number of impulsive purchases has decreased, whether there is a reserve that really cannot be touched, whether at least one investment instrument is working. They will honestly record their successes and failures. Where the plan has failed, there will be no self-flagellation. There will be analysis. Why did this happen? What can be corrected? What conclusions can be drawn? September will be the month that will cement Pisces' habit of looking at money not through the prism of lucky, unlucky, but through the prism of decisions and actions taken. In October, Pisces will make bolder financial decisions. If large sums of money used to scare them, during this period they will be ready to look at them with more confidence. They will consider options for participating in larger projects, joint investments with other people, participation in businesses as a partner, and purchasing shares in promising initiatives. October will not push them into reckless risk-taking. Instead, they will learn to identify projects with real figures, structure, and market understanding, and will work with those. In some situations, Pisces will receive offers that give them the chance to dramatically increase their income. But these offers will require the courage to step outside their comfort zone. November will be associated with deeper work on internal attitudes. Pisces will notice how they sometimes slow down their progress toward big money, fearing conflict, rejection, and criticism. This month, they will practice defending their financial interests, clearly reminding others of debts, not giving up ground in negotiations, and not agreeing to lower their expectations when agreeing on terms. November will make them firmer in money matters without taking away the softness in their relationships. Pisces will learn to say no to those who use their sensitivity as a way to avoid fulfilling financial agreements. December will sum up the year in such a way that Pisces will see not only the numbers, but also the change in their financial character. They will assess how confident they feel when talking about money, whether there is clarity about where financial flows are coming from and going to, whether the additional sources of income they have created are working, what has already been launched from investments, and what prospects are opening up for the next period. They will understand that the legendary 100 million mark may still be on the horizon, but their trajectory is now heading in that direction. The main thing is that they will stop being afraid of scale and get used to the idea that large sums of money are not someone else's reality, but a possible result of their own path. Throughout 2026, Pisces will gradually replace chaotic dreams with concrete financial steps. They will not rely solely on signs from above, although they will remain sensitive to intuitive prompts. Their intuition will not replace action, but will suggest where to direct their efforts. They will not shy away from documents, numbers, and graphs. On the contrary, they will use them as tools that give them freedom. Thanks to this, in 2026, Pisces will not find themselves as random witnesses to the great successes of others, but will move closer to the position of people who create their own financial history. Less spectacular than that of the 3 chosen signs, but one that provides a real foundation for further movement toward very large sums of money.